Triple murder suspect faces trial with stun cuff penalty after court outbursts. Brice Rhodes will be the primary focus of attention for the subsequent trial that will be held in Louisville, Kentucky. There are 3 distinct victims who are accused of being brutally murdered by him. Christopher Jones, who was 40 years old at the time, is suspected of being shot by Rhodes, a local rapper with a criminal record that includes domestic assaults and a conviction as a sex offender. Rhodes is accused of shooting Jones in the year 2016, presuming that Jones was the chosen victim of a contract killing agreement. Following the passage of some time, the bodies of 2 teenage brothers named Maris and Larry, who had been present at the murder of Jones, were found in a residence that had been abandoned. There is a widespread belief that Rhodes was the one who gave the order to brutally kill the brothers. According to reports, Rhodes shackled the brothers, stabbed them, and then forced other individuals to participate in the murders. Rhodes was also responsible for the murders. Carter, who was one of the participants, detailed a horrifying encounter in which the victims pleaded for their lives on many occasions before receiving violent assaults and in the end being burned. Despite the fact that efforts were taken to clean up the crime scene, it is alleged that evidence linking Rhodes to the killings was located both at the scene of the crime and in his vehicle. This is regardless of the fact that the crime scene was cleaned up. It has been determined by the judge that Rhodes, along with a large number of other individuals involved, is cognitively challenged and suffers from a severe mental disorder, which prevents him from being put to death. Rhodes is also facing significant accusations. Rhodes is now in danger of being sentenced to life in prison as a consequence of this. There is a good chance that the prosecution will make a compelling case against Rhodes. In order to achieve justice for the victims and the families of those who were adversely impacted, the prosecution will rely on witnesses and evidence. Rhodes is adamant in his assertion that he is innocent and asserts that law enforcement officers manufactured a bogus case against him for the killings. He also says that they engaged in improper behavior against him. He provides a detailed account of a search that was conducted at his flat, underlining the fact that there was no evidence found during the initial search and the surprise discovery of blood on the carpet during the second search. He also emphasizes the fact that in the first search, there was no evidence found. According to Rhodes, the detectives were misled by an informant who fabricated allegations in order to avoid getting into legal trouble. Rhodes believes that this informant should be held accountable for their actions. The fight that Rhodes had with attorney Brendan McLeod, who later recused himself due to a conflict of interest, is one example of the drama that has been taking place in the courtroom that is surrounding him. Rhodes allegedly reacted in an aggressive manner, including spitting on McLeod, according to the reports. Additionally, Rhodes continued to participate in similar behavior throughout the duration of the court hearings, exchanging furious comments with both his previous attorney and the judge. However, despite McLeod's efforts to put some distance between himself and Rhodes, emotions remain high. This occurred at the same time that McLeod was making these efforts. In order to demonstrate his disobedience, Rhodes inquired about the amount of his bond before leaving the courthouse. Rhodes is claimed to have spat on an inmate, which is another proof of his aggressive attitude. This is in addition to his interactions with legal counsel. When it comes to interactions with legal counsel, his pattern of disruptive behavior goes beyond those interactions. Due to the occurrence of these events, the processes that are taking place in the courtroom that are linked with Rhodes' case have gotten increasingly intense. Throughout the processes that were taking place in the courtroom, Rhodes continued to engage in behavior that interfered with the proceedings. A second inmate is said to have been struck by him, and he is also accused of verbally threatening to use physical force. During one of the hearings, he was placed in a chair, shackled at the wrists and ankles, and triple murder suspect faces trial with stun cuff penalty after court outbursts. Brice Rhodes will be the primary focus of attention for the subsequent trial that will be held in Louisville, Kentucky. There are 3 distinct victims who are accused of being brutally murdered by him. Christopher Jones, who was 40 years old at the time, is suspected of being shot by Rhodes, a local rapper with a criminal record. Additionally, Rhodes made the situation much more difficult by, among other things, asserting that the judge had a bias against individuals of a particular race and insinuating that the judge and the prosecutor had an inappropriate relationship. The judge's sense of professionalism and integrity were called into question as a result of his words, which were described as being inflammatory. Despite the fact that the judge had cautioned him to stop, Rhodes maintained his disruptive behavior, which included calling into doubt the authority of the court and making allegations that were devoid of any basis in reality. Due to the heated exchanges that took place in the courtroom, the proceedings of the trial were plagued by delays and difficulties. These issues and delays happened in the midst of the proceedings. A disruption was produced in the courtroom as a result of Rhodes' actions, and these activities also raised issues about the impartiality of the trials that were being held at the time. Rhodes' conduct caused serious impediments to the administration of justice, despite the fact that the court put up steps to preserve order and guarantee that due process was followed. Furthermore, Rhodes' behavior was not confined to the constraints of the courtroom. It is said that he engaged in a number of incidents of misconduct when he was held, including making threats to law enforcement personnel and attempting to flee their custody. Rhodes' behavior was not limited to the confines of the courtroom. With the occurrence of these incidents, the ongoing challenges that are encountered when seeking to govern Rhodes' conduct and to maintain the safety of the correctional facility were brought to light. As a result of the investigation, Rhodes was accused of flushing a tool down the toilet, which led to a plethora of fresh claims being filed against him throughout the course of the investigation. In addition to committing felony mischief, these claims also included escaping and tampering with evidence. Due to the fact that he reportedly threatened a law enforcement officer who was detained, he was additionally charged with criminal mischief as well as terroristic threats and endangerment. Moreover, he was accused of making a threat against a law enforcement officer. Additionally, it is alleged that Rhodes attempted to influence the evidence of a co-defendant by using handwritten notes, which is symptomatic of both coercion and manipulation. This is a particular allegation that has been made. In spite of the allegations that were brought against him, Rhodes continued to insist that he was innocent and refused to seek legal representation, which made the proceedings of the trial even more difficult to manage. A further level of complexity was added to the situation by the inquiry of whether or not Rhodes possessed the mental capacity to stand trial. Evaluations made by professionals in the field of psychiatry were in disagreement with one another. It was finally determined by the court that Rhodes was competent to stand trial, despite the fact that he exhibited symptoms of hallucinations and paranoia. The court cited Rhodes' knowledge of the legal proceedings as the justification for this judgment. The judge issued a warning to Rhodes at the beginning of the trial about the consequences of disruptive behavior, stating that there would be no tolerance for such behavior. Rhodes was warned that there would be no tolerance for such behavior. In spite of the issues and debates that were taking place in relation to the case, the processes of the trial continued. This trial shed light on the complexities and challenges that are inherent in the process of obtaining justice for the victims and ensuring that the accused receives a fair trial on the basis of the circumstances surrounding the case. Would you like it? Hit the like button and subscribe to our channels for more interesting and informative videos.